Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum and I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company taking a look at a very cool little pill primer turret revolver. This was manufactured in Paris. It is a system that was patented by one A. Noël, and it was manufactured by a company called Gouery, Canat, So you're far enough back there you can't see anything of what I'm looking at here, so let's just take a closer look at this guy. This would be classified as a turret revolver because it has 10 chambers in it, remarkably, that extend radially outward, not axially down the barrel. So what Noël came up with in this system is actually pretty clever. So he has a gun that is very slim, and by the way, since we're looking at it, actually has halfway reasonable sights, certainly pretty good sights for this time period. But it's a very narrow gun. It's not particularly bulky, either in the grip or in the cylinder, despite having a full 10 rounds of capacity. So I can open this up by popping off that lock, lifting the side panel up, and then this will come out. It's supposed to come out. It's just, there we go. So these holes are for your primers, and these holes are for your actual charges. And this is 28 caliber. So 28 caliber, and that's a really shallow chamber. So despite having 10 shots, these are going to be really, really wimpy shots. But that's, again, not particularly, out of the realm of what was considered normal at this time. If you think about things like the little Chicago palm protectors, really pretty similar to this. Those actually used cartridges, but they used cartridges that were about the same size. This is still well before the development of smokeless powder, so this is all black powder. Now, the way these guys work is you actually have pellets of primer material that are combustible. When you hit them sharply, they will detonate. That's what the hammer is for, but it's not a traditional percussion cap, and so it doesn't have something like the nipple that you would get in a percussion revolver, a typical percussion revolver. So load your charges up here, powder and bullets, load your pill primers in there. Then on the other side, you have your hammer. So when I pull the trigger, that's going to come all the way out and snap down, and it doesn't really like resetting. Sorry, this one's a little bit worn. This guy right here is going to go into each of these in sequence, and the impact of that hammer will detonate the primer, which will then fire the charge. We have approximately a 3-inch barrel, 90 millimeters there. So decent barrel length, really, for what is otherwise a pretty compact little gun. And of course, the trigger folds up underneath, so that doesn't get in the way or snag on things. Identifying the manufacturer here almost requires a microscope. There are two little tiny stamps on the barrel. This one is for the manufacturer, which is Gouery, Canat, and they are in Paris. You can read Paris on the bottom there. Opposite that, on the other side of the barrel here, we have one more, and that's for the inventor who has the actual patent on the design. Like the top quarter of this is cut off because it was stamped a little too high, but it says System A, Noël, and Brevet SDGD. And that's standard terminology. It just means the system is patented by Noël. One last mechanical thing to show you, and that's how the hand actually operates the cylinder. This one's a little bit worn, but I can still show you. There is, instead of a traditional hand, we have a curved hand that's coming out of the action right there. That curved hand, the surface right here, is going to interact with each of these 10 little spiky looking bits. That's a technical term, by the way. And they are going to, let's see if we can get this lined up. I also don't have the cover plate in place, so it doesn't really want to work right. There we go. That's going to push the cylinder around until the end of this little point comes to rest in a notch in the hand, and that prevents it from advancing any farther. That effectively locks the cylinder in place with a chamber lined up with the barrel and with a pellet primer lined up with the hammer, and then the hammer drops. So that's how the whole thing actually cycles. And then this all works better when you've got it actually locked together. But then the hand returns in, and the next time it comes out, it's going to line up on the next cylinder. for all of its legitimately interesting design elements, one of the big problems here is that Noël didn't patent this until 1865. So by that point, there were much more modern systems that were starting to become popular in the marketplace, and that certainly is probably one of the primary reasons why these were not made in particularly large quantity. As is rather typical for these, small production commercial European guns from a century and a half ago, there's not a whole lot of information out there. At least 500 or so of these were made. I've seen reference to serial numbers that come up into the 480s. So yeah, they did reasonably well on them, I suppose. I think the date of manufacture is probably what hurt this the most. Having only patented this in 1865, you're really close to cartridges, metallic cartridges, becoming very commonplace. And that makes for a much more reliable system than something that you have to, muzzle load with paper cartridges and pill primers and dealing with all of that nonsense. So, not surprised that this went away relatively quickly. Was never made in particularly large quantities, but it sure is a cool, interesting design. And frankly, thanks to the pill primer system, I think probably a lot safer than some of the other turret revolver systems out there. Anyway, you can check out high-resolution pictures of this and a little more information on it, if you like, in Rock Island's catalog, their most recent auction catalog. You can also check out their Instagram page and their YouTube channel. I have links to both of those in the description text below. Thanks for watching.